This is the May 19th meeting of the Porter County Stormwater Management Board. Commissioner Good. You all need to unmute yourselves.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you, Kurt. Welcome to the Porter County Stormwater Management Board meeting. Let's please first start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're getting better at that. It's hard to do, but we're getting better at it. Thank you. Again, this is Porter County Stormwater Management Board. It's May 19th, 2020. This is a teleconference, video conference, as we're still working through the COVID. We want to get right into the agenda here as it's on the screen. First is a consent agenda. This is for the Stormwater Management Board. I see we do not have a consent agenda for the Drainage Board, but for Stormwater Management Board. In there, we have claims of Breyfogle Ditch, $4,250 worth of work. Brummett Acres Subdivision, $12,949.10. Graham Woods Subdivision, $5,602.50. Kroll Ditch, $525. Ludington Ditch, $1,350. Old South Haven Substation, $8,327.59. And then we have one more claim. This is coming out of the Stormwater Bond Fund. That's Old South Haven South Central Storm Sewer Project, as we've commenced up there on the next series of phases of work. And the first claim out of that is $239,615.58. I'll remind everybody again that all of these were done by work order or contract. All of the payment applications have been verified and approved by the department that as we release them. So with that, I will put the consent agenda to the floor for the board to take action.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda for claims.
And that's Kevin Brightsky.
Can Kevin do that? I mean, is this the right?
Yes.
Yeah, this is the Stormwater Management Board, not drainage.
Okay.
Yep. So we have a motion on the floor from Surveyor Brightsky, and we need a second. I'll second it. So we have a motion and a second for the consent agenda. Roll call, please, Kurt.
Commissioner Good.
Yes.
Commissioner Blaney.
Yes.
Surveyor Brightsky.
Yes.
Commissioner Biggs is absent. You have a 3-0 vote.
Thank you, Kurt. Next up is we're going to get into announcements. With that, I will turn it over to our county engineer, Mike Novotny, and he can give us a little bit about what's going on here with our announcements. Michael.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Continuing our work here at the department to address some longstanding drainage and stormwater management issues. We have two projects that we're announcing that we will be seeking sealed quotes or bids for in the near future, and then awarding contracts for at a future Stormwater Management Board meeting. The first of these is Hidden Hollow Subdivision. And Kurt, if you would forward one slide, we've got a little map showing the location here. Hidden Hollow Subdivision is located north of State Road 2. On the east there, the county road is County Road 150 West. And so this is, and then on the west of the subdivision is Aberdeen. The south end of this subdivision, there's a series of ponds that are wet ponds that act as stormwater management. For a number of years, they have not had an adequate outlet. The department has worked with adjacent landowners to secure the necessary easements. We're finalizing engineering and design now, and we will reconstruct these outlets and enhance this stormwater infrastructure. So it'll be control structures on the ponds, storm sewer, swale, to address these issues. And again, sealed quotes or bids will be sought, and we're targeting the July meeting for a contract award on this one. Kurt, if you would go back one.
Mike?
Yes, sir.
Hey, what is the department's budgeted estimate for this project? I know I always ask you those questions, but I was just sort of wanting to figure out sort of what the scope was looking like out there.
Yeah, for Hidden Hollow right now, we're still finalizing those plans, but we're right at about the 150,000 mark with everything that we're contemplating. So still more to be refined there, but that's about where that sits. The second one on the list this morning is down in Windy Oaks. This is phase 2 of our stormwater management system improvements, and this is the big phase. If you guys are familiar with this, Kurt, if you would go ahead 2 slides. This is down at 675 West and 250 South. This subdivision has had a number of drainage issues for essentially since it was built. None of the perimeter drain tiles essentially that provide groundwater relief from the septic systems in the subdivision have ever really functioned well. Below the bottom of the detention basin are a number of drain tiles that really don't have an adequate outlet. The drainage board made several efforts to try to make improvements, but really the scope of the improvements needed were kind of beyond what their finances previously allowed them to do. So this is the big one. We're going to be excavating the detention basin out further to allow all those drain tiles to have adequate outlets. We're going to be upgrading the detention basin to meet today's detention standards. And then we're going to be making improvements between the detention basin and County Road 250 South to carry both offsite flow through the subdivision as well as the release from the detention basin adequately and in a way that doesn't impact the property owners between the detention basin and the county road. So detention basin improvements, swale, storm sewer work. We are finalizing engineering and design on this one currently. We'll be seeking bids on this one in the near future and awarding a contract again, hopefully in July at the July Stormwater Management Board meeting for this one.
And Mike, who have we been working with on the engineering for this?
We've done all the engineering in-house.
That's what I wanted to hear. Thank you.
We have a very talented team of staff here. A few professional engineers that are very capable of doing this, saving the department. I probably the cost of the engineering alone on this one would have been in the $150,000 range. So that's all completed in-house. Our current estimate on this one is it was between $300,000 and $400,000 for the total cost of the work.
Thank you, Mike. I just wanted to just keep it
Thank
out
you.
there that we're performing now some work on our own, and that a lot of these subdivisions would have been very cost prohibitive to go back in, and with the engineering on top of the work, this again, the department's taken the slow grind approach to working this stuff out within our own department. So this is what we wanted, and this is what we've staffed for, and it's good to see that we're starting to churn out some more engineering work through our own department. So just wanted to give a plug for everyone to pat ourselves on the back a little bit, very briefly, because we still have a lot more work to do out there, but thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jeff.
I think real quick, it's interesting to note that you estimate the engineering would have been around $150,000, and that is the complete cost of the project you mentioned before this one. So it's like getting a whole project free. It's good stuff.
And we believe, I know the board believes in it. We believe in it. Look, we take ownership of our own projects. We're able to investigate them adequately. We're able to, in these built out subdivision, there's a lot of complications. We've got to get land rights. We've got to get easements in a lot of cases to be able to do the work. We've got to get other utilities out of the way to be able to do the work. We've got to find all these old field tiles that are running through some of these subdivisions in some cases, and making sure we can intercept them and route them properly. So, even with a consulting engineering firm doing that work for you, you don't have that in-house investment, that vested interest in our own infrastructure and people who really do care about curing these problems. And I know Jeff's exactly right. We have a lot more work to do, but we are moving forward and crossing a lot of long-standing drainage issues off the list. We still have a lot more to do.
This is another case of very flat area. Well, the area was really rolling, but the engineer who designed this to be pretty much flat. The drainage has always been poor, and then for lack of erosion control from the mid-90s, buried a lot of the septic field perimeter drain outlets. So when this drain was cleaned out, and being mindful of this was done with the subdivision regulated drain assessments that might have amounted to an accumulative total of $25,000. Went through, cleaned out that ditch, and the contractor exposed a bunch of the tile, and we were cutting off the ends of the perimeter drain, so they drained. The whole place was just retaining a ton of water just in the soil. But eventually all this stuff still needed to be done, and I'm glad to hear it's getting done.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. This again, we're starting at the worst situations out there, and we're working it back up. I know some people probably think their situation is a little bit worse, but we have a lot of things cataloged, and we're trying to take care of the things that are the worst to the best, and that's how we're approaching it. Since the work is so massive that we have out there, it's going to take us a while to crawl back and climb back and get ahead of this. But I think we've got a very good start, and this is encouraging to see us starting to get into some of these older subdivisions and helping the people that live there and give them a situation like we are in South Haven and like we are in other places. Getting it to a point where people don't have to worry about these type of things. But we still have a long way to go, but we're going to talk about it and celebrate it as we move forward. So that's all good news. Next up, Mike, did you have anything else that you wanted to talk about on that project before I move on? Or
No, sir.
Okay. Now we're going to get into opening of quotes. And Mike, I'll shoot this back over to you as to describing what we're doing here and go from there.
Yeah, and so this is the Seasons View subdivision. We announced this last meeting that we would be seeking quotes for this project with the goal of opening them here today. Kurt, if you would forward one slide, we have a exhibit here. Seasons View is just south of Lakes of the Four Seasons at 275 South and 725 West. In what would be the bottom right corner of the exhibit here, you notice a large open area. That is the detention facility for the subdivision. It's wet for most of the year, as well as a little pond that's on sort of in the middle of the screen where you see that historic wetland. That's also detention area. We're very flat here as well. So the concept is to, what we're going to do is dig out a section of this detention basin and replace it with a bioretention area. So these are amended soils, mainly sand, but mixed with topsoil and shredded bark mulch. It will provide not only the ability to process small storm events, an inch and a half and less underground and keep that surface water from ponding up, but it will also, bioretention areas also provide a significant water quality benefit. So we're providing not only increasing storage here in the subdivision, but also providing a water quality benefit that doesn't currently exist. And we talked about this before we went live with this meeting, but one of the strategies that we have here in this with this department and with our stormwater program is to add storage in our upland areas. That only helps our regulated drains as you move further south or further north. it takes some of the load off of those, adds detention. So that's our strategy here. We invited 6 firms, all holding annual services agreements with us to submit quotes. We had interest from 3 of them, but only 1 of them wound up submitting this morning. A few of them said that due to workload or interest in other projects that are coming up, they were going to pass on this one. So with that, I have 1 quote here from Grimmer Construction. And with that, I'll open that quote and read the results aloud, provided the quote is responsive.
And Mike, I'm assuming that this one here, again, we did all the engineering in-house for as well too, right? Because it's just a lot of grading and other things.
And we did, we actually, Adam McAlpine is here on the call with us this morning. He actually started work on this under his, before he joined county as staff, under his annual services agreement with us, but we got a lot of value out of Adam's work. And then when he started here, continued his work and finished this one up for us. So with the quote, it appears I have a quote form properly signed and sealed, basis of quote form, financial statement. So the quote appears responsive. The quote for the work is $186,336.00. Adam, would you chime in with our engineer's estimate on this one?
I think the engineer's estimate is somewhere in the range of 140,000.
Yeah, I think we're right at 139.5 with the engineer's estimate. So about 40,000, 45,000 more than our engineer's estimate. And unfortunately, we only got the 1 quote here this morning.
Is there going to be spoils to be hauled off, or is there? I'm guessing that like with the number, there's some trucking involved. It looks like.
That's a great question. So the base work included on-site disposal of the soils. We'd also asked for a price for haul off as well. So we had that trucking number, but that base quote 186,336 considers on-site disposal only, losing some of them in the drainage easement where it's not active detention area.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So we're not nailed down to a specific number on this yet until we know if they're going to do long haul.
Well, this would be the number, and then their unit price for haul off per cubic yard is $18.30. So we would include that. I mean, in the contract, if the board chooses to award this today, that's on the agenda. But we can, it is significantly higher than our engineer's estimate, and we can decide to hold and decide what to do next at the next meeting.
Hey, Mike, I guess in board, my suggestion would be when our estimate is so greatly off at this point, and we only have the 1 quote, right. I think it doesn't mean that the quote is incorrect. It just means we only have 1, and so we don't even have anything to compare it to at this point. But my suggestion would be to take it under advisement, have you a chance to take a look at the actual documents. Agreed. And then also be able to have a conversation with the sole bidder at this, or the sole quoter at this time, and maybe get a little better understanding of how they priced it, and see if this is something we need to do now, or we need to wait and put it back out in the market at a little bit different pace at a different time. So
I think sage advice from Attorney McClure, and that would be staff's recommendation as well. Give us a little more time to review this quote, discuss with the sole quoter on it, and we'll come back next meeting then with a recommendation from staff.
Is that a table? Do we table it, or what do we do here?
Nothing. We just take it under advisement. We opened it. And
no action.
Yep.
And the quote, Per our instructions to quoters or respondents, the quotes remain open for 60 days. So we have 2 months now to decide what to do with it.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's what, that sounds like the prudent thing to do at this point, because we really don't know how much work with the whole COVID thing and everything. Construction jobs are all over the place right now, and there may be a reset here in the next 60 days that may give us pause for some better numbers. You don't know, but I don't think we're going to get hurt by doing this. So.
Agreed. And good contractor, and the numbers may be good, but we'll vet it out a little bit further and decide what we want to do.
Just a lot of dirt work. That's what's always hard on these.
It's a lot of dirt work. Yep.
Yeah. So piping and other things are a lot easier to estimate on pricing, but when you get into dirt work, that's sort of the gray brown of it. So, okay, thank you.
Yeah, this development too has been 30 years old. It's what it is, but the outlet's been worked on, Ludington Ditch, so now everything's got an outlet for it eventually. So now's the time to consider doing something overall with this subdivision and its ponds.
Yeah, I agree. We just got to double check the number. We're that far off our estimate, and we've been pretty good on hitting our estimates in the ballpark. So I think we'll just continue our march like we've had in the past, and we'll come back now that we got one quote. We'll look at those numbers and we'll chew it up and come back here in another month or two, and we'll, we still have the availability to get this work done in late summer, early fall, which is really the right time to do it. I don't know if we want to do a bunch of this work in the summer because of the seeding and the hot heat and some of the other things. So from a timing standpoint, it may be better to, if we can get the numbers figured out, do this later in the summer and fall. So just thinking of seeding, Mike, because I'm thinking there's going to be a ton of it out there.
Yep. Now we had you're exactly right. We had a September 15 substantial completion date with the idea of doing the earthwork during the driest part of the year. And then once we start to cool off a little bit, move beyond Labor Day, get our fine grading, our seeding, our restoration done. So you're exactly right, Jeff.
Well, I think let's try to keep that schedule that you just talked about, but let's let the documents work through the system a little more, and then we'll revisit soon.
Agreed.
Thank you. Just wanted to talk it through. That's all. Okay, next up, we have qualifications-based selection. This is for the Shorewood Forest Subdivision Stormwater Infrastructure Study. Mike?
Yeah, and this is coming back to results of our request for qualifications process from a few meetings ago. If you would forward a couple of slides. So there's Shorewood Forest. Probably you guys don't need an exhibit for that one. But if you will recall, at the time, I think this was the March meeting, staff had reviewed and scored, along with Dan Fee, a representative from the Shorewood Forest POA Lakes Committee, the responses to our request for qualifications. We sort of had a mixed bag of results. I think staff all kind of agreed that no particular consultant really distinguished themselves in terms of the scoring and the results. But the staff recommendation at that last meeting was to enter negotiations on a contract with Abbenmarsh. The board asked for staff to revisit so we have, and after discussion internally as well with Attorney McClure a little bit on it, we are now recommending that the board, and I think rightfully so, that the board reject all responses to the request for qualifications at this time. And in lieu of that selection process, we pick up with interviews and on-site interviews with with a small subset of consultants, qualified consultants on this project, and get a little more information from them, let them distinguish themselves from one another. And then we'll come back at an upcoming meeting with a recommendation for you guys based on the results of that interview and additional discussion.
Okay, any other questions from the board?
I'll make a comment. A few years ago, I bought Bill Tankey's surveying records. Among his records were construction plans for Shorewood that I put online for the department. They're not publicly available, but the POA has scans of all the information that I had, but that included the sanitary sewer, the utility construction, stormwater construction, some of the idea behind how they impounded the lake and created their hydrology. So that's, and I think the department's aware that's online. But I would encourage them to share that with their consultant.
Absolutely. And just to reiterate, you know, the purpose of this study is to provide a roadmap to, just like we've done in South Haven, just like we're starting to do in Greater South Haven, the new South Haven, Salt Creek Commons, and Coventry subdivisions. This would be this would be sort of the master plan. Tell us what needs to be done, where are the worst of the problems, and give us a strategy for working through those. Not that we haven't been doing work already in Shorewood, working with the POA and addressing priority issues, but this would be a comprehensive document to sort of provide us with a game plan over the course of the next 5, 7, 10 years within the subdivision. So that's our recommendation, just to provide some closure on that selection process or a path forward on that selection process. So if the board chooses to move in that direction, that's what we'd recommend.
Mike, this is Jeff Good. What would, once if we were to reject this today, what do you think your time frame is? You thinking another 90 days or 60 to 90 days in there to pull all this together to revisit it?
Yeah, we have, of course, interest from consultants and from a small group that we're considering for the interview process. But yeah, we would think by that July meeting is when we would probably come back to the board with a recommendation on negotiations and a little more information on scope and fee at that point as well.
Okay. Any other questions of the board?
Just another comment. There's a large private lake to the west side of the county road on the west side of Shorewood that goes under US 30 back to the northeast and comes back toward the lake. We might give some future consideration to that. We've had a history of the system backing up on US 30 there, particularly along the shoulders. NDOT's done a lot of work there themselves to clean out their infrastructure, but there's an old field tile system, kind of like Seasons View and Windy Oaks. There's a lot of old farm tile that's being misused now. There's too much pressure on it because people have created these little ponds and lakes that outlet around, and that could affect the water quality of Lake Louise and Shorewood. So we just want to be mindful of the impacts of some of the stuff around and see if we can also look at an improvement for those things in the long run.
I would imagine, Mike, that one of the stakeholders in this project in the future would be IDEM, right?
Yeah, and each of the regulatory agencies would be considered as part of the process as well.
That's what I thought.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
And that's one of the reasons I brought up the Department of Transportation, because this impacts US 30.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Scott, Attorney McClure, we're probably going to have to vote to reject, right?
Correct.
All right, so we'll put it to the floor here for the voting members for the board to take action.
I'll make, sorry, Laura, go ahead.
Motion to reject all bids and proposals.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Blaney and a second by Surveyor Brightsky. Roll call, Kurt. Any discussion?
And this is for reconsideration of this. The project's not dead.
Correct. Any other comments from the board? Roll call, Kurt.
Commissioner Good,
Yes.
Commissioner Blaney,
Yes.
Commissioner Biggs. Commissioner Biggs, you need to unmute. Or Surveyor Brightsky.
Yes.
Hold
Can
on
you hear me
one
now?
sec.
You there,
Yes,
Dan?
Commissioner Biggs, your vote.
Yes.
There he is. We got him.
You have a 4-0 affirmative vote.
Thank you. Okay, now we're going to go to the second page of the agreement, or to our agenda, and we got contract awards. These are for our annual professional services agreements for 2020. Mike, I'll go ahead and just read them. It's Abbott March Consultants Inc., Butler, Fairman, and Seifert, Inc., Christopher B. Burke Engineering Limited, DLZ of Indiana LLC, Lawson Fisher Associates PC, and Soil Solutions Inc. And so those are our service agreements, and all of these contracts have been reviewed by council, and everything looks in order with regards to billing rates and everything else. Mike?
Yeah, so we are recommending, they have, and we are recommending that the board accept these agreements, approve these agreements here this morning. And these are the same group of consultants that we've had annual services agreements with for the last few years, based on our request for qualifications process we conducted in late 2017, early 2018.
Motion to approve the annual professional services agreements for 2020 as listed.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Blaney and a second from Commissioner Biggs. Any further discussion? With that, roll call, Kurt.
Commissioner Good,
Yes.
Commissioner Blaney,
Yes.
Commissioner Biggs. Okay, he's frozen. It appears. Surveyor Brightsky,
Yes.
Yes.
Looks like we lost Commissioner Biggs there.
Commissioner Biggs. I did hear him say
Can
yes.
you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Hello?
He
Commissioner
said-
Biggs,
Hello?
Commissioner Biggs, your vote.
Yes.
So 4-0 vote in the affirmative.
Okay, thank you, Kurt. And then the last thing on our agenda, we had the quote and acceptance and the contract award of Seasons View, but since we've decided to, hold that for some further study, we will not be awarding this contract for today, but we will be looking at this in the near future to see if we can facilitate the cost and things that came in with the one and only bid. So with that, is there any other information or other items that anybody wants to address this board on why we're on video?
Nothing for me.
I have nothing.
Okay, Kevin?
No, you're fine. I think this is the least we can do, and this is all we can do.
Let's just keep on working. I'd also like to point, I'd like to point out too that the highway department has been out working diligently. I think I've seen a lot of emails coming through. There's a lot of where we're going to be working on roads and redoing roads. We're putting in culverts and things ahead of that. There's a lot of ditch work that's going on out there, which the highway department is working on, and they work closely in conjunction with this department because obviously to do the work you need engineering, and So you're seeing a lot of work being taken place out there. And this is just all the type of work we're trying to fix our roads up before we go ahead and recondition them or pave them. Just so when we spend that investment money on upgrading that road, that we have the drainage infrastructure correct, where we can carry that water away from the roads and hopefully get a longer lasting road of what we're doing. So a lot of the day-to-day stuff that's going on out there, and as we resume coming back to work and everybody getting back into their routines, you know, just be careful that we do have guys out there working, and we've tried to take advantage of as much of the work as we can while there wasn't a lot of traffic, but the weather didn't cooperate with us this spring. And I would also like to note, we were talking before we went on live, that Mike Novotny, we spoke a little bit before we fired up, and May of 2020 is quickly catching up to our very wet May that we had last year, which was one of the wettest ever. We are quickly approaching that again here at the county. And that's why we've had a lot of complaints, and the department, I know, is in full complaint mode right now. We're trying to work through the areas that are affected. But again, if you are experiencing any type of drainage infrastructure, go to the website. There is a form to fill out. I would encourage you to go that route, because as soon as you fill that out and you send it, you will be logged in, and your complaint and your issue will be looked at. And especially in these COVID times where we can't get with people, please use that website. It's there for a reason, and we can get you on the docket, and we can start taking a look at whatever issues you have at that point. But I know a lot of times people just want to call and complain, and that's certainly okay. But I would, again, with the size of the department, I would again encourage to go online and fill out the form and get it into the system, because we have people in our departments that are trained to handle these things and deal with them accordingly and get them logged in. So we now have a trail of the problem and who's talked, who's looked at it, and all those other things. So that was a little long-winded pitch for the department, but just bear with us. Since this department has been formed the last 4 years, we have had major water issues in the last 4 years. So it seems like this time of year, we always take a hit with time and effort and talent in our department. But we want to make sure that we're addressing these issues that take precedence over some of the work that is a little bit more longer down the road. So we're going to keep trying to ride the fence on those things and balance our work out. And I look, I know we have the department and the people in place. Now we just need a little bit of time and a little bit of dry weather. So that was really all I had to say. I know that was long-winded. I apologize, but just wanted to sort of communicate out there if anybody's listening and watching in on what we're doing. So with that, there's no other.
If I may.
Yeah.
May is typically bad. June's usually worse, but I think we're in good shape overall for facing up to these problems. One of the things to remind people of, we did not close the building to the employees. The employees have been working all along. Your staffs and people are available. So fortunately, we've had people here working for the citizens. The building is not open to the public as of yet, and that's what commissioners are working on right now, to reopen the building to the public. But we still have had people here pretty much in strong force to take care of the citizens. So I appreciate the commissioners letting us go ahead and work in here.
Well, I think, thank you, Kevin. I think early on when this all started, I know sitting around the table at 6 feet apart, talking to Attorney McClure and some other people in the department, and Commissioner Blaney and Commissioner Biggs, one of the things that we wanted to make sure of is that we have a lot of work that is going on, and the best thing that we could do is keep this work going so people still have a job to go through too, and it can help them pay their bills. So we wanted to keep our county working too, but since it was outside work, we felt that it was the safe way to continue to move forward. And I think we've picked up a lot of good info. We've done a lot of work in that time. If you're listening to this and you want to know a little bit more about where the county's going as far as opening and other things, the commissioners board meeting will be at 10 o'clock this morning. That's just a few minutes away. You can view this same website or on Facebook where we're streaming. We'll have that meeting there too, and you'll learn a lot more about when the county's going to reopening and some of the restrictions that we'll have over the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned, more information coming. Thanks for the pitch there, Kevin, and a little bit of teaser as to what's coming on in our next meeting. But with that, I think this board pretty much stands in recess. Our next meeting will be posted up once we start figuring through when we can start meeting personally again and other things. That's going to be the next thing that we're going to work through on these meetings to where we can start getting together publicly. So,
Jeff, can I add just a couple of things before we close up? I appreciate the board's direction to the public. I know a lot of the public that have submitted drainage complaints since this COVID-19 response all started. Some of them have been waiting for a long time to get staff out there to where we have safe procedures and protocol in place to investigate non-urgent or non-emergency issues. If you submitted a complaint, you will be hearing from staff here very shortly, if you haven't already, setting up a date and a time and laying out some guidelines for getting together with you and looking at your problem. Our detectives are really good at investigating and getting things, either giving you technical assistance or ramping up the effort and maybe becoming a public infrastructure project. So as Jeff said, please submit your complaints via our online form. That's the right way to get them into the system. Make sure they're properly documented. Through this whole thing, we've worked to provide those essential government functions, plan review and approval, work on all of our important and essential public infrastructure, roads, bridges, and stormwater infrastructure. So far to date, we've issued 56 projects or started 56 projects to the tune of about $8 million worth of contract value. So just to give you some idea, we are still at work. We are still keeping those essential infrastructure, public works projects going, repairing and reconstructing our drainage infrastructure, our stormwater infrastructure out there. And work has been going on in South Haven. We've got stuff going down at the Kankakee River. We've got work going on our regulated drains throughout the county and throughout subdivisions across the county. So please bear with us. It's a busy time right now. We've got 8 to 9 inches of rain across the county since April 25th. Not as bad as some areas have had it, but it certainly has strained our drainage infrastructure. So very busy. We've got about 80 drainage complaints since the wet weather began. So just bear with us. We will get to you and follow up with you. And then I'll stop there instead of keep going, Jeff, but appreciate it.
Well, this is our opportunity to let the sunshine in here for our stormwater board, and look forward. This year is already off to a very busy start, and it looks like we have a lot more work ahead of us for quite some time. So thank you to this department for working through the last 6 to 8 weeks, and look forward to getting to see everybody on the other end. So with that, this board stands in recess. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.